Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living on Music. I'm Steve Hauk, and over the course of the last 3 years, plus that I've done Living on Music, I've interviewed again the most incredible musicians from this region, as well as ones from around the world. And one of them is no exception. Holly Montgomery was just an incredible interview about her whole life. Then we reunited about her latest record about a year and a half ago, and I saw her at the Jam in Java and did a live Living on Music hit with her. So I've known Holly for a couple of years, pretty well as a music pal. But what a bonus today to not only have Holly on Living on Music, but also Sherry Barnett and Suzanna Spring, two other members of Mustangs of the West, who is the band that Holly has been on and off a part of for 30 years, but they were only together until the mid-90s, then decided to do their own thing. Suzanna Spring went out and moved to Nashville and became a well-known songwriter, performer, amazing lady there. Sherry Barnett, if you're a fan of music photography, you know her as a staple of music photography, live music, and also with musicians in their own environments. She is incredible, has a book, but she is also a member of the band going in. And Holly Montgomery, as I just said, coming out of the 90s, they decided to do their own thing. And again, Sherry taking photographs, Holly creating her own, continuing to create her own musical life. Then in 2017, they reunited. Sherry kind of had an impetus and got the two of them together. They added Suzanne Morissette, a wonderful drummer and vocalist from Canada, and Aubrey Richmond, fiddle player, wonderful fiddle player and vocalist. And they recreated Mustangs of the West. And in 2020, came out with their album or finished their record, Time, and then boom, the pandemic slammed them like every other musician on earth. But they were able to continue to do virtual, continue to keep together. The album Time got wonderful reviews, despite not being able to see them play anything live or anything like that. But as the pandemic kind of began to swane a bit in 2023, they released two more records, Sea of Heartbreak and Down at the Palomino, which is referencing that incredible club that so many have played. And they released those in the summer and fall of last year, of the 2023, and then released that wonderful song, Everybody Wants Peace on Earth. And you can go to YouTube and check it out, but you'll also see it on the show. So stand by for a second. But they just wrote that, the three of them, Sherry and Suzanna and Holly, and it is a wonderful song. Has some can generate up for holiday feel and stuff, but it can be played all year long. It's such a wonderful song, and they're doing that too. And also going to be playing some shows in California this year and things like that. But what a wonderful group of ladies this was to talk to. So without further ado, let's get there. Let's go to Suzanna Spring, Sherry Barnett, and Holly Montgomery, Mustangs of the West. Well, look here. Mustangs of the West have galloped onto Living on Music. Suzanna Spring, Sherry Barnett, and my pal Holly Montgomery. Welcome, you guys.
Thank
you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it is absolutely wonderful. And again, the history of you guys, I've known about for a while. Holly and I did a show. I think, Holly, our first show together was about 2 years ago. Living on Music was launched in the pandemic to engage musicians. I've been a music journalist for 20 years, TV for 40 years, but wanted to engage people like Holly and also around the world. And so it began like that. And then we talked again once after that. And your name of the Mustangs and then the Mustangs of the West came up. So it is a treat. A real treat to have you guys. Now, there are two other members of the band, right? Which is Suzanne and Aubrey.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Great. And we will give them a thumbs up and a hello too, and we'll talk about them a little bit as well. But what I'd love to do, and what Holly knows what I did before, when this show develops. Someday, maybe we won't talk about this, but the last 3 years for musicians and any human have been an incredible run from this thing we got hit by. And I know that 2020 was the release of Time, right? Right as things were about to hit. Tell me a little bit about Time itself and where that came from. Was that coming from a while back? Was it done recently before that? And then boom, you had to stop for a while until things recently came back running again. Anybody can jump in. Suzanne, you want to start?
Yeah, we had the good fortune to get to work with Canadian producer Mark Howard.
Yes.
That our label and label head Kirk Passage reached out to him, and I think we all felt that it was a great experience. I mean, it was interesting to watch the way he records. If you know anything about him, his background is, working with Daniel Lanois and setting up Kingsway, and Emmylou Harris and Tom Waits and
Neil Young and U2, Peter Gabriel, all my favorite musicians he does.
All those. And he has a really specific system of working. We worked at the old A&M studios, Henson now. So big room, great room for drums. And he sets up stations. So you would record, do basic tracks and then a guitar acoustic station in the middle. So you do those overdubs and then vocal station at the front. And he worked really quickly, in some ways, maybe faster than we were used to working. But I felt I ended up loving that because a lot of the things we got in 1 or 2 takes. He likes to get things in the moment, and he spent a lot of time with arrangements. There was one song, How Blue, that Sherry and I wrote with a previous band member, and we ended up completely rewriting it, sitting in the control room there at A&M, and came up with a really cool version of that song that I love. And that ended up being one of the first singles and a video.
Just how blue
yes, you're exactly right. That came out right as things were closing down, and
Oh,
we were supposed to play South by Southwest. We had a
yes.
whole tour, East Coast and Texas tour, and we just watched one by one those clubs close, and some of them never to reopen. But we
Um,
we ended up doing a lot of online presence because
yes.
the album itself just has some great, really cool tracks on it.
Yeah, and it's gotten some wonderful acclaim
Yeah.
Yeah.
from some really high end. The No Depression, which I love, San Francisco Chronicle, Americana Highways, which I know those guys very well. Sherry, how was the last going into that, getting that record out, and also before that, how did you deal with the last couple of years?
Well, I think pretty much the same way that everybody did. You know, it was like taking a break and figuring out what the next step would be, you know, knowing that there would be a next step, but we didn't know when. And
Right.
so we were able to, you know, fortunately for us, even though it was unfortunate the album came out when it did, it also, our label still believed in us enough to offer us another album after that. And you know, although, you know, it's kind of like, wow, should we re-release Time because so many people didn't hear it? But it's out there, you know, it's out there. And you know, it had a lot of highlights. I mean, like Suzanna was saying, I mean, just to have Mark Howard produce it and work with us in the way that he did, I loved it. I
Oh,
loved it. It was challenging. It was very challenging, especially knowing his credits and going in with him. But then he had a way of bringing out the best in everybody and making everybody comfortable enough to make some great music. And then we were also, you know, really fortunate, really blessed to have our label mate at the time, Rusty Young, come in and play on a couple of
yes.
tracks and do a pedal steel solo on the title track on Time, which
Right.
is killer. It's just, you know, and I hate to think that people, that anybody, especially people who are fans of country rock and polka and
Right.
all that, I hate to think that they missed that because it was just exceptional.
Oh, I mean, an indisputable anthem for the challenges of today and tomorrow by Bill Bentley of American Highways. I mean, that's wonderful. Holly, you're part of Time, and you getting the Mustangs world as well as I know you so well over here in the DC region and everything you do. Tell me about the Time for you.
You know, they both Sherry and Susanna said it really well. I mean, what a joy and a lesson to work with Mark Howard. You know, it wasn't just that he was producing and crafting and steering the songs. It was even sonically. Remember, you guys, like the sonically some things that he did, like some of the percussion he had Suzanne use, and he was super good about like for me as a bass player in this style of music, he was super good about finding the right place for nice melodic lines and all this kind of stuff. You know, it was, I mean, for us as a rhythm section, working with him was really cool because he was open to a lot.
Oh,
So, you know, for me, there was just there was a lot of space in the album, but there was also lots of really great lines and really great vibes. I think that's, you know, not to overuse that word, but he was just great at creating an incredible vibe. You know?
Fantastic. And, you know, ladies, you weren't alone in the music world with people who had come out with these records. They were so important to you. They had a wonderful experience. And then boom. And you kept going. And again, I've talked to so many people about that interceding, and so many people musically that I've had on the show, almost most of them, of course, you got hit by the live, not being able to do live gigs and not being able to interact as much, but there were songwriting and there was interaction in other ways, and you were able to kind of come around as it slowly recovered, which you know, I got it 2 months ago from playing a live gig to 200 people myself and singing, and I got hit, and I'm like, is this over? Damn it. But as it slowly recovered, you had the visionary founder of Blue Élan, which is Kirk Passage. Is that his name?
Yes.
And he started KZZ Music. Now, what was the decision to join him at his new label?
He had, as you said, founded Blue Élan and had acquired artists there. Just, you know, Kirk, when you meet him, you'll realize he's almost a musical encyclopedia. He's a keyboard player when he
He's a
was
savant.
younger.
Yeah.
And yeah, it almost seems savant. He is able to pull out so many eclectic songs and bring them into a session. Songs, and we all think that we have a pretty strong musical background, and he never fails to amaze with the songs that he's found. And
Oh,
I think for him, KZZ was a way to step away from some of the admin responsibilities of owning the label and be able to focus more on production, which is what he really loves. He loves being in the studio, I think, more than anything else. And
great.
you can tell. So KZZ is, under the umbrella, it's an imprint of Blue Élan.
Oh my gosh. And
but-
two
So
albums?
it's the best of the best. Yeah. So we were able, he reached out to us in, I think, the fall of 2021 and said, how would you all like, we weren't sure, at that point, post-COVID, what was going to happen. But once he created KZZ, he reached out to us and said, you want to make another record? And then we went into the studio with Kirk and Colin Devlin.
Colin Devlin, right.
From the Devlins. And that combination of those two, I have some of my favorite performances are on this record. We recorded at a place called Dave's Room, which is a really storied place on Hitcham, and lots of vintage gear and lots of, again, working on arrangements. Suzanne and Holly worked out a lot of the percussion and the grooves for some songs that we really changed up a lot from the way they had been originally envisioned. So,
right.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that we were able to make those records.
Oh, that's fan. Suzanne and Aubrey had a part in that as well.
Oh, huge, yeah.
The beautiful violin work, I guess, from
gorgeous.
Aubrey. Oh, and that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that everybody got a chance in there. I love the fact that you were do that. You were able in 2023 again, did 2 records. My gosh, look at the Mustangs rolling out of this. And you went to South by Southwest. I saw some wonderful clips of it, and that had to be great. I know that Holly, you've played obviously with the Mustangs down there, but also with others, right?
Yeah, I did it with my band.
Yep.
And I played it with the Bone Shakers too. It was a blur that week.
Well,
it was a fun time, though.
Was it?
And hide behind a wall. I wanna believe that love will win, and we'll both find it again. Once we leave this hurt behind, we all lose sometimes. I'll be graceful, I'll be brave, and I'll get through one more day. A broken heart is not a crime. We all lose sometimes. A broken heart is not a crime. We all lose sometimes.
What were your favorite memory? One after the other, in a nutshell here, Susanna. What was your favorite memory of that South by Southwest?
Getting to play at Saxon, because that's
Yes.
got such history, and then walking in the door and realizing that a songwriter I wrote with when I lived in Nashville and he worked for Curb Records, Walt Wilkins, was on that show. And I got to hear him. We got to reconnect after years and years and years. And we had written a couple songs together. So that
And we
to
played
me
one of them.
was a treat. Yeah. Yeah, Other Side of This Love, which is on Down at the Palomino album, is a Walt co-write. And if you know of him, he's just a wonderful Texas poet.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that was my
that had to be a wonderful surprise. Sherry, your favorite part of South by Southwest?
I think, we were booked with another band on KZZ, which was basically the last remaining members of Poco, plus a couple of other guys, and that was Cimarron 615, which they've ended up being label mates of ours. But it gave us a chance not only to share the bill with them, but to get to know them. And
Yeah.
these guys just, they're incredible musicians, but they're also really wonderful guys. And we got to hang out with them and share a lot of war
Amazing
stories and
Yeah.
and
So good.
and
Yeah.
it made it just more special and more fun for us to have them there too.
Oh, I bet. And again, Holly, you've been there before, but it had to be wonderful to be there with the Mustangs.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, that was the second time the Mustangs did South by Southwest.
Right.
We did it in the 90s with
thought so.
Lucinda Williams and
Baby
Jimmy Dale
band.
Gilmore.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. I want to talk a little bit in a minute. I think both Suzanne and Sherry, you both had something to do with the documentary Palomania. We'll talk about that. I want to see what that was like for you. But I'd like to, again, as I do in the show, and I've done with Holly too, and we'll talk again a little bit about for people about how the three of you launched into your musical lives. And we'll do it, a little bit for each of you. I know Suzanna, where were you? Were you born on the East Coast?
I was born in Chicago, but I spent half my growing up on the East Coast, and then my parents were always, California dreamers. My dad was from the East Coast, but my mom's from Oklahoma. So I think it was just a matter of time before we all ended up out here.
Right.
But I started out in classical music. I was a French horn player, so they won't let me play that in the band, but because my mom taught us all to sing and harmonize, she and my sister and brother had played in a little trio. So I think my kind of familiarity and love of country music as well as rock, as a teenager, and tons of listening to radio from the time I was 6. I always think that's where a lot of the melodies that are in my head just comes from having been steeped in that for so long.
Oh, I bet you also were Emmylou, Steve Earle, Townes Van Zandt, Lucinda Williams, things like that. All people I've interviewed before, and just fabulous parts of the growth of the music within you. Were you playing music as a young lady in school and then out of school?
Yeah, both. I mean, I played, of course, in bands, classical and orchestra, but I also played as a singer-songwriter, and I sang with my sister and brother-in-law for a while when we were right out of college, and then started auditioning for bands. And after I moved down to LA, I met Sherry and some of the, we call it Mustangs 1.0, but I guess it's really even before Mustangs 1.0, and had some crazy times kind of as a baby band growing up with them. I think some of the songs that I sang were a little more rockabilly. And that was what was happening at the time in LA. It was country rock and rockabilly scene. And all of us kind of grew up around that. I started out writing songs really early. I'm sure I wrote a lot of bad poetry, but eventually when I went to Nashville, I felt like even as a solo writer, learning how to have writing as a profession. And I wrote for EMI for a while, and I wrote for Blue Water Music just as a staff songwriter. So I stayed in touch with Sherry and would always send her songs I was writing. And, eventually once I moved back here, she took one of them and said we all ought to get back together and record it. And we did. And really, Sherry made that happen for all of us. She knows Duffy Walden, and we got to record at Tailor Made Studios. We did a video. The song was called She's Got Your Heart when I wrote it in Nashville, but on Sherry's recommendation, we changed the title to T-shirt from California.
Yes.
And that's become a song that is one of our signature songs. I mean, it's got all the great 3- and 4-part harmonies. It's got great violin, has a cool groove. I mean, I think we made that song something that people remember us for.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I love that. I actually played that earlier when I was preparing for you. I played that song and I was like, T-shirt, there we go.
You said you wanted to go out west, but you said nothing about someone else. You just wanted to reinvent yourself, far away from these Midwest checkerboards. the sun in her hair. I got a t-shirt from California. It says Sunset Boulevard. I got a note that you wrote on the back of an old postcard. But she's got your heart. She's got your heart. You talk about the view from the canyon or the drive up to Malibu. You never talk about me and you. Guess you got a new life, got a new attitude. I got a t-shirt from California. It says Sunset Boulevard. I got a note that you wrote on the back of an old postcard. But she's got your heart. She's got your heart. I can walk down Ocean Avenue and stand out on the pier. Well, it seems so real, but it's just another souvenir.
Sherry Barnett, I know there had to be some music involved, but maybe you took a couple of pictures back when you were little.
Yeah, I took a couple of pictures of a couple of musicians too.
Well, I mean, when you were young, how did music was a part of your life, I'm sure. And then, wow, your photography career is exceptional. And tell a little bit about how the music and the photography blended as you grew.
Well, I think, my mom was a songwriter, and she played piano, and she just, she was a dancer, she had all, so I grew up in this, I had a strong sense of, the arts. We didn't call them the arts, but, I had music all around. And she was, and her songs were early rock and roll songs. I mean, it's not like she was writing, more serious things, but,
Right.
But I started playing music when I was a kid, and, started out on piano, accordion, and then along came folk music, and I saw guitar and rock and roll too, of course. And so I started playing acoustic guitar, and then I auditioned for the School of Performing Arts in Manhattan. I grew up in New York and was a classical guitar major.
Yes.
And by the time I got out of there, though, I realized that I wasn't a solo performer. I just wasn't cut out for it. And, so I knew I wanted to, play with other people and be in a band. And all along, though, even when I was a little kid, I would go to these rock and roll shows, and I'd take my little blue brownie camera, because I wanted to kind of bring home the feeling of the music and have it last longer than just, while I was there. So I started taking pictures of like early, rock and roll and folk groups, and then a lot of my early shooting was when I was still in high school, but I was going to school in Manhattan, so I could just go down to the Greenwich Village and I was starting to shoot for the underground papers at that point in time, and I could go down to the Village and catch Bonnie Raitt at the Gaslight Cafe, or John Sebastian at the Bitter End. All these people that, of course, became legends, and they weren't legends then, and I had access to photographing them. So that's how my archives began.
Sure. Janis Joplin, B.B. King, and Tina Turner thrown into the mix.
My first.
Tell us about your Ike and Tina shoot. That's a great story.
Well, that's what I was going to say. My very first shoot was Ike and Tina Turner, and I was shooting for this paper out of like the East Village or something, and so I would shoot the show this was at a place called the Electric Circus in St. Mark's Place in the East Village. But then the editor wanted to have some photos. He was going to go interview them at the Chelsea Hotel. So I came along for that. And actually those negatives have held up so incredibly. And it just, what a way to start. It was just unbelievable.
Completely. And Ike and Tina were actually seeming to be getting along during the shoot.
No, she was sleeping 3/4 of the time. It was basically an interview with Ike, and there's this lump in and he's sitting on the bed, and you see this lump behind him, and it's Tina. And then finally she gets up, and then she's reading our newspaper, and she's, but no, she was just, exhausted from.
That was the bad time.
That we know about now.
That's spectacular.
But then, but I was hearing music out of California. Like especially, 60s folk rock and stuff. And I went, oh my God, I love this music. This is the music that, inspires me and I feel connected to. So I got to get to California.
Oh, fabulous.
So
maybe there's a Living on Music episode in the future for Sherry Barnett. We talk about your
Oh, I think so.
photography a little bit. Holly Montgomery and I have talked a while. And Louisville, Kentucky, I have to tell you that I just did and you might have seen this online, a 2-gig tour with the Diplomatic Immunity Band, and they are former ambassadors and diplomats who had a band in Slovakia years ago, and they reunited, needed a singer, and I got brought there, and they brought me to Louisville, and we played the River Valley Club right on the river there, and I'm like, Louisville. Oh, it was spectacular. And, I'm not as fully into a professional musician as you all are, but when I get to do that, I'm like, thank you, Lord, for letting me sing.
Yeah, that was great. It looked really great. I was like, what's Steve doing in Louisville?
I know.
Steve, what kind of music?
It's all rock. I've been a rock and roll cover singer. On February 6th, it will be 18 years. And it's been incredible. I just did a Beatles tribute with all those guys from the Beatles bands, which was fabulous locally. So things have exploded for me, and I never expected. I have a rehearsal tonight, and Holly, are you local? You're here?
Yes, I've got a gig tonight too. It's not. We have a huge storm happening here right now.
Yeah, there's something wild going on. But Holly,
we'll have to interview you, Steve.
Yeah,
there you go.
Got some crazy. It's Jimmy Page's 80th birthday today, by the way. And
I know. I saw that.
When I was 16 years old, I got into a train in New Canaan, Connecticut with 3 friends, and we took it down to Manhattan and ran through the streets and got to Madison Square Garden and saw Led Zeppelin. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And he's 80 now, and God bless him for being still around. But Holly, you had some wonderful experiences that we talked about, but I want to hear a little bit more of them about the interaction with music, beginning at 5, studying piano. Then we talked about Dorothy Boy, which was your older brother's band at 14. What was the biggest impetus for music for Holly Montgomery at that stage?
I think probably boredom.
Right.
Yeah, I was and pretty much in rural Kentucky. It was kind of the edge of rural, and both my parents were musical. I mean, my parents were divorced when I was very young, but just having that and knowing, okay, well, that's where we come from. And when all the kids in the house, we always sat around and sang songs or made up dumb little things with music. And so it was just something that you did, it wasn't something that I thought about, and it wasn't something that I was like, well, I want to have music lessons so that I can play, it wasn't like, it was just something that we did for fun,
Right.
So, and where I grew up, there was a radio station called WLRS, and it played, Queen and Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and all of that stuff. And I loved that stuff, and at the same time we were listening to whatever albums that my mother had sitting around, like John Denver. I'm a unabashed John Denver fan. I thought he was fantastic at what he did.
Yeah, he was.
So there's a lot of variety, and I loved Glenn Campbell, but really, my heart was in, Zappa and Queen and Zeppelin and all that stuff. So that was the kind of band. That was really my first band, was doing hardcore prog rock. And actually, you can find the stuff on YouTube. I posted the Dorothy Boy things on YouTube. But so that was kind of how I spent my adolescence. But I also played trombone in the school band.
So yes, you did.
Yeah, that was great. That was
we could have a horn section.
I know, because Suzanne, the drummer in the Mustangs, played trumpet in high school.
Oh, that's right. Well, we got almost brass choir.
Oh, we have a brass.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you never know where people are gonna.
Never
know where people are gonna shift. I have a duo I've been doing for 8 years, and we played JVs the other night, and we played all over the area. Greek and the Freak is the one. This one is Houck Robinson Duo with Jess Robinson, who just joined an orchestra playing fiddle.
Right.
So I'm like, boy, I didn't expect you to do that, but I love when people break into different things like that. And yes, the Greek and the Freak, which started in the pandemic with my partner Suzanne, has been an incredible run. We're playing Hank Deedles in a couple of weeks or a
Playing
month.
all the places.
Who knew? Acoustic cover stuff. But let's fast forward through a little bit of musical life for the three of you. And when did the beginnings of the Mustangs begin? Let's go through a little bit of a nutshell of that.
Original Mustangs or
Yeah,
Mustangs?
sure.
Probably how the whole thing began with the originals, and then how each of you joined. We can pop in.
Okay, well, I guess I should start since I was there. I'm the one that was there from the very beginning.
With Billy Burner, right?
Billy Burner, very good. Yeah,
Did
Billy
your
Burner.
homework.
Yeah. Billy Burner is a girl in LA who is a singer-songwriter, and she had this idea, and she was going to have this all-female country band. And at the time, I think they had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them.
Right.
That were together, but they hadn't found a female guitar player. So the drummer's boyfriend, who's a brilliant guitar player, was playing with them on stage. They'd only done a couple gigs, but he was playing with them. And then they decided they wanted either a guitar player or a fiddle player. So I knew Billy, and she brought me in to audition me, and also they auditioned a fiddle player. And it was a funny story because they chose me. I had just fallen in love with country music.
Wow.
It was like the new traditionalist movement. It was like George Strait and Randy Travis and the Judds and all these people. Plus, coming along was Mary Chapin Carpenter and these great writers, Roseanne Cash and Emmylou and all the people that we love and were listening to. And so I auditioned for them, and I was just starting to take some country guitar lessons, and they chose me, and they had a gig the next day. And they said, well, we want you to play on it. And I said, well, I'm not really prepared for it. So it was a show. I literally had a music stand by my side that you couldn't really see. But it was a show where the Mustangs were opening for these two also fairly unknown acts, Jim Lauderdale and Lucinda Williams.
Oh.
So we went on right before Lucinda and then Jimmy, and that's kind of how it all began. I have it on video. It's highly embarrassing, but it does exist.
Right, and that's how it began. Susanna, you joined about a year or so later, right?
Probably a year.
Yeah, I had moved to LA after college, and I think Billy Burner had just left the band, and
she decided to start her own band, and
Right.
she thought that we would kind of follow her, but we didn't, because we loved the Mustangs, and so we needed a new lead singer to take her place, and writer, and along came.
Yeah, it was just I think I always say baby band, because I think for all of us, we really grew up with that band, with the Mustangs. There was a keyboard player who also sang lead. I played acoustic guitar
Right.
and sang lead. We all had much bigger hair and some embarrassing clothes, but we had a lot of fringe. But at the time, we were very proud of those things. And right after I'd say I thought I had amazing luck, because shortly after I joined that band, we played at the Palomino. There was, of course, that variety show, Ronnie Mac's Barn Dance.
Right.
There was a booking agent from Finland in the room, and she came up to us and asked us if we wanted to tour Scandinavia. She was a former rock singer from Finland turned, head of a booking agency. So right off the bat, we got to go and tour and be on the road. We played all over Scandinavia. We did that 2 years in a row, I think.
We did. I
Yeah.
was just going to mention that we you know, at that point in time, we were like, anybody who was like really interested in having us do something, you know, yeah, the answer was yes. And when the booking agent from Finland came up to us, they were very drunk. And we said, yes, of course we want to go to Finland, thinking that we would never hear from them.
Serious.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, yeah, they presented us with a contract. And so, and we had gone through, our original bass player had left the band. There was a point at which a keyboard player left, got married, people moved to different places. And then again, we felt like it was really a stroke of luck when we met Holly. And then Holly and Suzanne had played together in a rock band called Big
Right.
Planet. And I always think that one of the strengths of the Mustangs is everybody's varied musical background. So the fact that Holly has this big gritty voice and she comes from a rock band, to me, is one of the things that makes the Mustangs interesting. We don't all come from the same background. And so when we approach a song, when I bring something in or somebody else brings a song in, it changes, and to me is more interesting by virtue of what people bring to it.
Yes.
And I mean, for what it's worth, you know, Suzanne comes from a jazz and a fusion background. She like does more jazz and blues, and I think this might be the first time she's ever played country music. Might be the first time. So this has been, you know, it's very different for her, and for sure, I think she approaches the songs differently than somebody that was just a straight country player would.
Right.
You
It's
know,
a wonderful cross section of sounds, and again, there is a cohesion of the overall feel of the band, but there is that, as you said, Susanna, a wonderful variance of sound. And Holly, did you expect to join this band when you did?
Well, I think when I joined the band, I was knee deep in Big Planet with Suzanne. This is, you know, and Big Planet, you know, for what it's worth, at that time was kind of, you know, a big deal around town. At least we thought we were. And,
great
you know,
band.
we had a lot of things going on, and I was like, because I don't think I had ever really played, I'd never really played country before either. It wasn't something that I knew anything about. And then they were go, well, we really need somebody, and also we have this tour to Switzerland, and so I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, boy, that had not to be something I
was like, okay, I got to figure out how to make these things work, because, you know, well, in those days our needs were simple, weren't they, Susanna? You know, it was like, find 3 weeks where I can go, sure.
Yeah. We had
Right.
You know, it was so much easier in those days. You know?
Well,
Yeah.
it was an incredible run of shows at that initial run of the band. I mean, my gosh, the Roskilde Festival in Denmark, South by Southwest, as Holly, as you guys mentioned earlier, clubs, festivals, you know, the Southern California Country Music
And
Vocal Group of the Year. I mean,
the Palomino shows were an incredible experience.
I bet.
To me, I mean, I definitely loved going to Europe, but for me, the Palomino shows were like, those are the stories of, you know, those are the stories that you keep, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. When the mid-90s came, people decided to kind of look elsewhere to do some other things. When did that came about in the mid-90s, and was that a surprise? But was it okay? What was the general feeling that each of you had about that?
I think the difference is that we you know, we didn't have an opportunity to record. We were a working, gigging band. We had some incredible experiences that now we can look back on, and that really solidified us as a band and as friends. But we kind of reached a plateau, and we couldn't, you know, really move forward. And everybody was like, you know, it was together for like 7 years. So we were 7 years older, and we had some other interests and different reasons for doing music, and different places we wanted to live. I mean, we were a band in LA where very few artists got signed out of LA. I mean, Dwight Yoakam did. I mean, there were exceptions, but everybody was in Nashville, you know, and there were various reasons why not everybody could pick up and move to Nashville. Susanna did, and she can tell you her story.
Right. Love to hear that.
Yeah, I think I had all as a writer, I had always wanted to go to Nashville, and I started sending some of my songs around to country music magazines, and there happened to be one in Arizona where I think I sent them a 3-song tape,
Right.
and it got reviewed, and that person passed it along to a guy in Nashville who was producing a California artist, a guy, and they were looking for somebody to sing duets with him. He was a former bass player from the River Dogs on Elektra, and just a great, like, Jackson Browne, Don Henley kind of voice. And so I met him and we started writing and recording. And I was flying back and forth from California to Nashville. And I finally just thought, well, I need to live here, because I wanted to really work on my
Right.
songwriting. And Nashville has this tradition of co-writing, and I was very much an isolated solo writer. And in some ways I still am, but I think that working for a publishing company, there's something in place to help market your songs. They have people
Right.
who will go out and pitch the songs. So I learned all about that. And then I learned the way it's done there, which is, booking these 3-hour appointments. So you can go 10 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 8, whether you're a session player or whether you're a songwriter. So you can start, and, a lot of coffee through the day, and you learn who you write really well with.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very much an industry. You could have a job as that. It was kind of a crazy job to have, but it was a really fun time to be there. And then
Oh,
anybody, the best players in the world were there, the studio cats and that, doing those sessions, and you could have them on your session. So
wow.
that to me that was kind of a golden time. There were big studios then, and there are many, small ones now, and a lot of the producers now have home studios. But at the time, 16th Avenue was still open. All these studios where Christopherson recorded, and
Right.
a lot of the classic records were made.
Did you miss the Mustangs when things stopped, or was it just that it seemed like everybody just, was going to be a good time to kind of grow each? And I know, Holly grew in the music world big, and Sherry with her amazing photography career too. Was this still though a good? Did you miss the Mustangs?
I did, and I think you're exactly right, though, when you say it felt like the time that everybody was going to disperse. And I played as a solo artist in Nashville. I played in this duo for a while, and then had my own band, and did South by as a solo artist, and
Right.
did some playing on the East Coast. But I always stayed in touch with Sherry and also with Holly. And I think as the core of us, I don't know that we would have imagined getting back together, but there was
Yeah.
something that I told Sherry once, I wouldn't in a million years have thought this band would get back together, but there was something about the song and the timing. And then Sherry met Aubrey. Aubrey was with Shooter Jennings, and Aubrey, is classical trained
Right.
vocalist, but a fiddler. So we found, and Suzanne sings great. So we found again that we had this really powerful vocal sound. And I was amazed. I am still amazed at how things fell into place. And how we ended up, Sherry got the music to Kirk. Kirk was starting a label. It was all, when I think about time and timing, you have to pay attention to that. Things happen.
Completely. Yeah, what an incredible thing to have gotten back together. Again, Sherry, you're rolling. You were seen in my Bible, the Rolling Stone magazine. Although it's changed, there's not as many recognizable people in it anymore for me. But I have an automatic subscription till 2059. So I'm maybe I'll still have it when I'm 112. But but that had to be wonderful for you as well. It seems like the photography thing just upped even higher.
Well, I've just, worked at it for so long, and it's, I mean, I've shot hundreds and hundreds of shows, and, but it's funny because a lot of people think that, you've just photographed everybody, and I really haven't. I have photographed, I started out by photographing the artists that I was passionate about, the music that I was passionate about. That's how all those early, like James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, the great writers, the great, just people who are creating new styles of music and sounds. And, you know, I gravitated more towards that. But, you know, it was funny when you were talking about like Zeppelin. I never even got to see Zeppelin, much less photograph.
Too bad. I was going to ask about that later.
I know. Well, you know, the funny thing is I have to say, there were guys that, oh, you know, they want the assignment of shooting Zeppelin. Well, okay, that's great. So I was, you know, I went, well, you know, I'd like to go see Nina Simone at the Village Gate, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the pictures those are the photos I got. And so, you know, I got into a groove going through my life and doing that. And, you know, I never totally stopped playing music, but I did take breaks, which, you know, would have been nice in retrospect, not to have, you know, as long breaks.
Right. Well, the talent
But,
of women as music photographers, we have one in this region, Beth Harrison, who we just adore,
Yeah.
and she is spectacular.
Sherry
And-
has liked her pictures.
Right. And
Yeah,
Annie,
yeah,
An-
yeah.
Annie Leibovitz, you know, is one of my favorite of all time. So it's so wonderful to hear that you have risen to that level. Holly Montgomery, I think you were the reason. Oh, go ahead, please, Sherry.
No, I was going to say it's funny though. There were junctures at which I was playing music, and I felt like, and now I look back, kind of erroneously made this choice that I didn't want to be doing two things at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So I was in a band earlier on, and we were doing things like opening for Jerry Garcia and different people like that. And I remember I was sitting backstage tuning my guitar next to Jerry Garcia.
Oh.
Do I have any of these photos? No, because I was just going to be a musician. You know, I was
Oh.
just going to be known as being in the band. And there are a lot of things like that. I had Dusty Springfield in my living room about a different project. And, you know, I didn't want to interfere. I didn't take pictures. You know, and then finally I realized probably with Mustangs, it's like, well, these are good pictures to have. Like when we played Roskilde, which was the hugest concert we ever played, of course.
Right. In Denmark, was that? Yeah.
In Denmark, yeah. And we still don't know who canceled, how they you know, got us in, because we were probably the only non-recording act there. We went on after Edie Brickell and before the Stray Cats. But you could bet I was taking pictures of Edie Brickell and the Stray Cats by then, you know. But it took me a long time to go, okay, I should be doing this at the same time. It's not going to detract from anything.
Oh, God.
Right. And I just want to say one little plug for Sherry. When you get a second, Steve, Sherry took the first photo ever of Prince playing in LA. So she has a picture
Really?
of Prince really before he was
Really?
Prince, you know.
Wow.
It's on display at the Grammy Museum here.
Oh, spectacular. Oh,
Yeah, so check out that photo.
That's
It's fun.
fantastic. we're gonna have to keep in touch and hear many more stories of all those amazing things you did. And yes, Holly, you know, you were able to become this very well-known solo artist, studio musician, releasing, I guess it was at least three solo CDs in that time. You had Sorry for Nothing, which we talked about on our show, which I love. And it was from KZZ Music in 2022. But that had to be, again, for you, a wonderful time to at least, you know, grow your own musical life.
Yeah, I mean, when I left the Mustangs, Big Planet was over. I played for a year or two, I can't remember even how long, with Dan Byrne. I had a duo with Dan Byrne.
Right.
And then I started my own band, and kind of right off the bat, I got management and all that stuff, and tried to do that for a few years. But I loved that band, and due to many reasons I won't get into, we did get signed, but right before we were supposed to do the album, the label, anyway, they had a falling out. Not with us, but with other people that we were involved in. Yeah. So we went ahead and recorded our own album. So I have an album there that we recorded. And the guitar player in that band, who I always loved, we reconnected at Americana Fest this year, and have started writing some stuff together now. So it's very exciting to me, because I always loved that band, and I love, you know, to me that band was a great mix of all the different things that I listened to. You know, whether or not anybody else likes it, that's a different.
I liked it.
Oh
yeah.
Maybe Sherry, but that was really felt like myself. So anyway, Yeah, so I went on to do that, and after some years of doing that, and then spending years getting that album together, only to have the label drop us for reasons that had nothing to do with us.
Yep.
That was very disillusioning for me. I was like, I need to do something worthwhile with my life for a few years, I think.
Right. And you have
Yeah.
many
And,
things. Many
I mean-
worthwhile things, adopting incredible Kazakhstan children, and we just an incredible time as well in your life. 6 years ago, though, as Susanna talked about a few minutes ago, you guys reunited, began the renewal. And was it the three of you all just decided? I mean, you talked about it a little while ago, but it must have been in some ways a real thrill to reunite.
It was
It seemed
surreal.
more natural than we thought. I mean, I think I have to give Sherry credit for that, for
Yeah.
reaching out to us and
Oh.
pulling it all together and then saying, why don't we just record one song? And that was T-shirt from California.
Yes.
And then why don't we just have a photographer there while we're doing it? And why don't we have a video of this recording session? So all of those things we did really in short order. And I'm amazed, but I shouldn't be, with the musicianship being what it is, that part of it, learning the song and working out the parts, that all came together pretty fast. And then we met George Landers, he's Snuffy's engineer and a great producer in his own right. And so we worked with him on that, and it was an exhausting, long day. And after that, of course, once Sherry made the contact with Kirk, he invited us to, I think it was Clear Lake Audio, wasn't that right?
Yeah.
Invited us to come and play.
Yeah, do an audition of sorts, or not an
yes.
audition, but a rehearsal.
Exactly.
All-day audition.
Couch it at
It
that,
was.
but we knew that's what it was. And he said, why don't you just play 6 songs? And he sat there in the control room, and then we noticed he was just having producers stop by, and he would say, oh, like, this person's just going to stop by and listen for a while. But they didn't just stop by, they would get on the mic and talk back and say, well, why don't you guys change the key a half step up? And why don't you change the tempo? And I think it would be, so I really think it was an audition. They had heard the music and they wanted to see, I think, can these people really play? So that lasted it felt like forever, but it was probably 6 hours.
Oh.
And then he said, let's all go out to dinner. And he took us out to dinner and said, how would you like to have a record deal?
Oh.
So,
That was
I
fun.
mean, that seems like one of those improbable stories, but that is the way it happened.
It was improbable from the beginning. I mean, it was improbable from the time that I asked Snuffy Walden if we could. Well, we don't really have much of a budget, but can we come in and can we record a song?
Right.
We have to do it in one day because that's the only day we have. And can we actually have your videographer come in and shoot a video? And can we? It was on and on. And first he said, "Oh, that's way too much," and then he called me back 10 minutes later and he said, come on in and we'll talk about it. But, literally the interesting thing, without making the story a lot longer than necessary, but we literally rehearsed that song for like a day or so in my living room. And a couple of the band members met for the first time. But there actually was a magic that happened. There really was a magic. There was a musical chemistry that happened that allowed that to be you can watch that video on YouTube and it looks like we've been playing together for,
Totally.
a long time.
Right.
And then our fiddle player, Aubrey Richmond, said, well, I've got a gig for us. And she said, and it actually pays and it's, whatever. And so we're like, okay. And so, we've got this one song and she says, well, and that was the Ramona Bowl gig that you're talking about.
Right.
So we said, yeah, we're on. And then after she accepted the gig, I said, well, so how long do we have to play? I'm thinking we're a new band. We have never even done a gig. We must be opening for somebody where we'll play like 20 minutes or something and we can get that together. And she says, oh, it's 90 minutes. At that point, we've got the one song we've played together. So it It was amazing. It was another kind of amazing thing. We actually have it on video. I mean, you know, there are some awful moments, but there's some really funny moments. There's some great moments. And, you know, we were just kind of put to the test, kind of like, you know, the thing with Kirk Passage. You know, I pursued him for about 6 months, and finally he took a lunch meeting with me, and he was interested. But at the end of the meeting, he said, well, I just have one question for you. And I said, what is it? And he said, well, do you have any other music besides the one song T-shirt from California? And I had neglected to say anything to him about that. And that's how the in-studio audition happened.
Oh,
And I thought we'd be waiting for another 6 months to hear from him, because it was such a frustrating time not getting anywhere with him until suddenly it just popped.
oh my gosh. Well,
And I do want to say, because we
Please.
haven't really put it in there, that I think it really has transformed the sound of the band to have fiddle, like to have somebody play fiddle. She also plays mandolin, you know.
wow.
That's been kind of nice, because in the early form of the band, like Susanna said earlier, it was more rockabilly, you know, another
Right.
that, I don't know, it's felt a good little addition there to
Yeah,
musically.
to have strong singers in the band. I mean, Holly's got tracks on among the 2 albums. Aubrey's got some tracks where they each sing lead. So that's, I think, been one way that these 2 albums that we got to kind of spread out musically.
Oh, I love
Right.
that. Yeah, and I can tell that already as I'm digging deep into the Mustangs of the West right now. I love that. Suzanne Morissette's not related to Alanis, is she?
No,
No, but she
None
knows
of us, so you never know. But
no,
no, I don't know.
she gets asked a lot, and it's interesting because they are from the same place, you know?
Right. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, that's interesting. That would be, you
There
know,
are- Yeah,
her
there are a lot of
version-
Morissettes up there.
Right.
I knew another one.
Yeah.
I had another friend named Nicole Morissette.
Oh,
from the
really?
same-
I was
But
gonna,
Suzanne's version, you
Parts.
probably know that the Buddy Holly song, if you've dug in, Learning the Game, was, I'm a huge Buddy Holly fan, and I thought I knew, you know, most of his music, but Kirk brought that into us, and
oh,
I
yeah.
love Suzanne's vocal on it. I mean, it's pure and beautiful, and that whole track for me. And she also, on the fly, they asked her to translate it to French, and so she wrote a rhyming French version of the song and recorded that too. So I think that's probably going to be released to Canadian radio, but that song is a gem on the album. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Hearts that are broken in love that's untrue. These go with learning the game. When you love him and he doesn't love you, you're only learning the game. When he says that you're the only one he'll ever love, then you'll find that you are not the one he's thinking of. Feeling so sad and you're all alone and blue, that's when you're learning the game. When he says that you're the only one he'll ever love, then you find that you are not the one he's thinking of. Feeling so sad and you're all alone and blue, that's when you're learning the game. That's when you're learning the game. Hearts that are broken in love that's untrue, you're only learning the game.
Look, the last 3 years, are you kidding? You got time, see a heartbreak down at the Palomino. It seems like the Mustangs are rolling along pretty well here. What is going on in 2024 for the Mustangs of the West?
Well, right. To speak to your wonderful video background, Holly and Sherry and I wrote Everybody Wants Peace on Earth. And then, of course, the band added their wonderful magic and arrangements to it. And that was released with David Provan, who's a Scottish video creator, did that amazing video with the cool animation.
Everybody wants the feeling. Everybody needs some healing. Maybe we can make it real with love, love, love. Maybe on a midnight clear, something good could start right here. Maybe this will be the year for peace on earth. There's a string of colored lights on the boulevard tonight. Street corners, Santas everywhere. I thought about a long lost friend and how we never made amends. 'Tis the season now begins, and I swear, if I could change it all, I would make that call. 'Cause everybody wants the feeling. Everybody needs some healing. Maybe we can make it real with love, love, love. Maybe on a midnight clear, something good could start right here. Maybe this will be the year for peace on earth, peace on earth. Love, 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 love. We set the table, we say grace. We just ignore that empty place. We let the frost hang in the air. What if one of us spoke first to melt the anger and the hurt, to break the silence with a word this year? 'Cause everybody wants a feeling. Everybody needs some healing. Maybe we can make it real with love, love, love. Maybe on a midnight clear, something good could start right here. Don't wait another year for peace on earth, peace on earth. Love, love. If one voice can stop a war, what are we waiting for? 'Cause everybody wants the feeling. Everybody needs some healing. Maybe we could make it real with love, love, love. Maybe on a midnight clear, something good could start right here. Don't wait another year for peace on earth, peace on earth. Peace on earth, peace on earth. Love, love, love. Ooh, peace on earth.
I think we all hoped, considering what is going on in the world, that sometimes if you feel like you can't do anything, you can always share music, because music cuts across all boundaries. So we're hopeful about this song. We always felt when we wrote it that it wasn't necessarily just a holiday song. So I wanted to really make a mention of that, if people can listen and share it. And a lot of people have over the last few weeks or so, because that sentiment is, I feel, highly needed right now.
I agree,
Thank you.
100%. And that will be shown on this show, that entire video, because it is when I couldn't not put it behind me after everybody wants a feeling. The coming into the present, in a quick nutshell, you two, Suzanne and Sherry, just were interviewed for Palomania, which was about that place we talked about, the amazing Palomino. club, and that had to be a neat experience just to be involved in that.
It was great. I mean, I thought that the people who are doing it are so, I have such a reverence for the Palomino, and that I felt like it was very easy. They interviewed a wide range of artists, and we felt pretty honored to be included in that. I mean, Ronnie Mack was our big hero back then because he really gave us our start. He
Right.
our record release show that we did at the Roxy in October, so it was a nice kind of reunion. And then in April, we've got some shows. Northern California will probably, and we'll be in Nashville again. We're working, our label is involved with Operation Mend,
Right.
so an organization that you might know of with military veterans. And we'll do a show most likely in Southern California, and Cimarron will be involved with that. So it'll be, I think, 3 or 4 of the label artists, possibly Morgan Miles, and we've got those things upcoming, and
Great.
probably doing some touring in the summer.
What up? Is there anything else in 2024 for Suzanna Spring other than Mustangs in a nutshell?
Hey, you know what? Suzanna is a yogi, and she's just incredible. She has a yoga studio that I know. I'll tell you what, she can twist and yank it like you never saw.
That I didn't know. Maybe that's a whole
your
other
next
show
band.
we do.
I know, I should be.
That's the next band title, Twist and Yank.
Twist and yank.
I've gotten everybody into yoga. I mean, yoga is the musician's friend, honestly.
Yeah.
You can see there are a lot of musicians who practice it because it can save your body.
Totally.
And after I moved back to Northern California, I did open a yoga studio. So I've got a place in Livermore called Dragonfly Yoga.
Oh,
And
wow.
I take,
Dragonfly.
yeah, it's just that is significant to me. And I'm taking a group to Scotland. Over the last 10 years, I've taken groups for yoga retreats, and we're going to this place called Allendale Wilderness Reserve, way up in the north of Inverness, which is just a wild 20,000-acre place that has been restored over the last 20 years by someone, Paul Lister from the UK.
Wow.
So
I
can't tell you. Every time I think about that, I'm more and more excited about it.
Oh, I bet.
One of these days, I'm going to show up.
Yoga's
I
integral.
want to invite everybody.
Right. Yoga's integral to people. My partner, Suzanne, every Saturday morning after a 30-minute conversation with her dear friend Annette, they do yoga together, and I come down and she's getting herself stretched out for the day. Sherry Barnett, what does 2024 look to you in a nutshell other than Mustangs?
Oh, a nutshell. I think I'm just going to let it unfold. I have my book, Eye of the Music, but I've sold out, and so I'm in the process of getting them reprinted, and then all the things that will go with that.
Yes.
I mean, I've been waiting to do some interviews and different things like that because I need books. I need
Fantastic.
books first. Yeah, and then whatever what's going to be happening with the band, I just kind of balance the two. I mean, I think everybody in the band is if not balancing 2 careers, everybody's so they have such full lives. I mean, and Holly's in multiple bands. Susanna has a full-time, obviously, commitment to her yoga studio and to her work there and her, the retreats, and then Aubrey is always in multiple bands, and several people in the band, Holly and Suzanne and Aubrey also teach. I mean, it's like it's just kind
Suzanne
of
plays full time, by the way. So
yes, Suzanne plays full time, of course, and so then to work around our schedules and us living in different places, we have a full-time job just trying to put the pieces together so that we can hold the band together and then see what the label has in mind for us as well. So
perfect.
That's what's going on.
Well, that's wonderful. In fact, again, knowing Holly for the last 2 or 3 years, I always would see the map of the United States on Facebook or social media with the line going over to California, and I'm like, I know where she's going.
That's right.
I know where she's going.
Everybody
She's going to
else
the Mustangs. But Holly, that has to be again an exciting thing for 24. But my gosh, is your reputation growing continually here, as it always has? What does 2024 look like for Holly Montgomery?
Well, you know,
Some music or
I keep trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up.
right?
You know, in the meantime, I've just been trying to keep, you know, building a career and figuring out, you know, where I fit and how that I can remain solvent like we all are, you know. So yeah, this year we have things going on with the Mustangs. We're trying to plan some stuff right now for we want, you know, in 2020 we had a bunch of East Coast dates around here because I've been telling them forever that the style of music that the Mustangs do would be very welcome here. This is an area that likes that, you know, a lot, the Americana vibe and everything.
Totally.
So, you know, we're trying to get here. You know, I still do some touring with the Bone Shakers.
Yep.
And you know, I have my own band, and you know, I'm kind of and I'm doing writing with
Yep. Not a bad little showing for the
yeah.
Bone Shakers with that guy, Buddy Guy, showing up, right?
Oh yeah, that was
gig.
that was
That guy, Buddy Guy.
Yeah, at his own
guy,
his own
that-
club. You know, he's like, oh, I'm not traveling because I'm going to come in
he
and
hurt
play.
his back. He was
I
supposed
know.
to be on tour, and we didn't expect him to be there.
Sorry you
know?
hurt your back, buddy, but you're playing
But
with us.
yay.
But well, look, I am overwhelmed to be able to have talked to you three for this band, because again, I've heard about it on and off for the last 6 years since I think you reunited, and then through Holly, and then through just the general theme of music. I wish you the best of luck with that band, and also each of you.
Thank you. When we play in the East Coast, you're going to be our MC, right?
Oh, come on.
Oh, we'd
I'd
love
love
that.
to. I'd love to. emceeing the next Cancer Can Rock event on May 26th,
Fantastic.
which I love doing every time. And the Greek and the Freak are opening. But that's going to be fun. But I can't wait to keep in touch with all three of you. And again, Sherry, Susanna, I think we could even come up with our own show together too. I think it would be wonderful to talk about your own
Fantastic.
lives and things like that, because Holly and I have had a blast. In fact, last time I saw her, she was playing Jam and Java, one of the great venues around here, and that was for a new release, I believe, and we did a live hit. So I wish the Mustangs of the West, a fulfilling, exciting run as you're keeping going. The music's, I'm an Americana fan. I love the cowpunk description that I first read, and I'm like, cowpunk, really? That's wild.
That was
And
the
then I'm
old
like,
days.
The old day, yeah, the Mustangs were cowpunk.
That came from our good friend Holly Gleason, who's a wonderful writer, and she was there at the beginning. She saw us at the Palomino, and she's been very, very supportive. But that's where she started she actually wrote that original bio for us, and that line has never left. We've even tried to get rid of it, but it never leaves us.
Oh, that's
But
classic.
It's history.
I know, and I just brought it up again, so there you go.
Yeah.
But I love this Everybody Wants the Feeling is so special, and that's just the most recent part of what you're doing. But I wish you all the very best luck. Susanna, it was nice to think that I had Lisa Kudrow here for 5 minutes until I realized that it was Suzanna Spring who was doing the show with me. But I thank you all very, very much for being on Living on Music, and for being a part of the show. Thanks.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
again.
See you soon.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
great.
all be in close touch.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, Susanna, Sherry, and Holly, you're wonderful ladies, talented in so many ways. Thanks so much for being a part of Living on Music. Holly, your third time on, and I hope to have maybe a show with Sherry and a show with Susanna talking about their amazing own careers and things around Mustangs of the West as well. But thanks so much, ladies. Good luck. Happy New Year. Good luck in 2024 with not only the Mustangs of the West run, but your own personal lives and your own personal runs and the things you love doing. And I hope we keep in close touch. Real quick, everybody, if you're not a member of Living on Music, go to Facebook right now, right here, Living on Music on Facebook, with Steve Houck on Facebook, and become a member. YouTube is almost bigger deal because you can subscribe and get pinged on every episode we have. So you can see the premiere if you want to, or you just know that it's begun and you can go watch it or listen to it as well. Right here on Spreaker, a podcast, or any major podcast. The show is a video show, but I also like to be able to supply it as a podcast because people love to be able to listen to things as they're driving, doing other things. So join Living on Music, join the platform, the family, the nation. We're continuing to rise. It's been an incredible run, and hoping in 2024 that we continue to have some incredible guests. And I've got some on the docket that I think you're all going to really love. So look forward to doing that. But again, Happy New Year 2024. May you stay healthy, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay safe, stay loving, and also, almost above everything else, keep what? Living on music.